And lot of us, family business actually constitutes a very major part of Indian economy.
Yes.
So for a kid that grows up in a family business environment,
Yeah.
What is his mindset? Because many people think if people come from family business, they come from rich background, parents kind of spoon feed them.
True.
And they always travel in cars, they live in luxury.
Yeah.
When they're on a vacation, they live in luxury hotels and all
That's
that.
true.
But what does family business atmosphere look like?
I'll tell you. I mean, see, it will be different for different people, right?
Okay.
But I'll try to share my own experiences. Since you mentioned that, a large part of our economy, it comes from the family businesses, right?
Yeah.
And I'll tell you that the last I checked, it's about 79 to 80% of our
Right.
economy is
Right.
run by family businesses,
Right.
right? For example, you get on a street, most of the franchisees that you see when it comes to say Lenskart, or when you see a franchisee of let's say a Belgian waffle, or when you see a retail shop, whether it's a grocery shop or when you see a retail shop which is selling electronics, most of these retail shops are probably run by family businesses,
Yes.
right? Unless you see the cloud startups, which are probably the new age businesses, right? So 79 to 80% of our business is run by them. Now, when it comes to how a family business background is, there you can look at it from multiple angles, right? On one side, there will be family businesses where, let us say, like you mentioned, that there is the second and third generation is running the business, right?
Yes.
The first generation founder has probably done a lot of hard work, and he has probably lived a life of poverty. Then he has grown the business, right? And then now the second and third generation are enjoying the benefits. And then you see a life of luxury,
Yeah.
right? That they are
Yeah.
probably born with a silver spoon,
Yeah.
right? And they feel that some expenses are probably meant to be. They don't feel the pinch of money,
Yeah.
right? So that is where I think things start to fall for them, because when you don't have that curiosity and when you don't have that hunger, right, of learning something and working hard for the business, that is when things start to fail. And if you look at the statistics, less than 15% of the businesses will make it to the second generation, and then less than 5% of the businesses will make it to the third generation. Why does this happen? Because that luxury has probably killed the hunger, right, to work more.
Yes.
Now, on the other end, you will see family businesses which have probably sustained for more than 4 or 5 generations, right? And they have probably continued for a very long time.
Yes.
The difference there is that they give a lot of importance to education. They will never let their next generation enter the family business without having adequate education. The third point is that they will never let the next generation have a sense of entitlement, right? I mean, because I'm born here, I will have to get this, right? They remove the sense of entitlement and tell them that you first have to work hard. You have to probably learn the ground rules of business. Then you have to probably have your own education, right? I mean, you work for somebody else for a few years, see how other things are working, come back, and then tell us how will you contribute to the family business. When this kind of accountability is built into the next generation, that is when those family businesses start to withstand all the storms that are coming. You will not see them dwindle when it comes to some challenges, right? So yes, I mean, like you mentioned, they would have a luxurious life, but if to their background there is no right upbringing, there is no right education, they are not told that with changing times they will have to keep working hard. If these things are not built in from the ground up, you will easily see these family businesses fall, by the third generation or the fourth generation arrives. So there are always two sides to it. You might be seeing them today in a happy face. It's quite possible that there'll be a storm and you won't see them anymore. Right? So it's a very tricky situation when I talk about family businesses, to be honest.
Actually, there is a very famous saying I recently read. Difficult situations create strong men.
Yep.
Strong men create good situations.
Times. Yes.
Good times. And good times create weak men. And weak men again create difficult times.
Exactly. That is the quote. I mean, I think I totally relate to it. Totally relate to it. And I'll tell you, that is probably one of the reasons. And I think I got it from my mother. My mother always told me, I mean, don't you ever think that because you're from a family business background, you will have it easy. To continue this business, to grow it, to probably just be where you are, you will have to put in a lot of effort, right? And just because you feel that somebody had it easy, or maybe somebody had it without an educational background, don't think that it will work for you, right? So you must have your education, and that is what motivated me to complete my CA. And I still continue to pursue a lot of things. I try to keep myself updated. And not only that, even if you're educated, don't try to think of yourself that you are not supposed to be close to the ground reality, right? I mean, you should be open to doing each and everything, so that tomorrow, when you are short of labor, when you're short of capital, or maybe
Yeah.
when you're short of skills, right? You should be having that attitude of putting your head down and working again,
Yeah.
right? Only then you can say that you have a safe future,
Yes.
because you're not dependent on past inheritance, or you're not dependent on somebody else's.
Right.
So I think I don't want that good times
Yeah.
for me to be a weak man. I would always prefer,
Yeah.
being in hard times and keep working so that I don't go through that situation.
Right.
Yeah.
Makes sense. So yes, I have heard many, all these business families, they tell their kids,
Yeah.
you don't have to go to a high paying job, whatever it is,
Right.
even it's a very small thing, you do your own thing, in the sense your own
Right,
business.
right. That's true.
So that's the kind of
Yeah,
mentality. And
absolutely. Shouldn't say that you should not work for somebody else. I have worked for somebody else, and I know the benefits of it, right?
Right.
When you work for somebody else for at least 3 to 5 years, you really understand how corporates work, how systems are built, how processes are run, how to deal with people, how to deal with a tough boss, or how to deal with a team which is not really efficient, right? You learn all these simple things
Right.
very early in your life. So I think it's very important that you work for somebody else, and you work for good bosses, you work for good companies,
Yeah.
at least in the initial 3 to 5 years of your life. But if you're determined, ultimately, right, if you really want to start up on your own, then I think that you should absolutely go ahead and start something small, right? Just forget about whether it's scalable or not, whether it's going to, probably be sustainable or not. In the initial days, just try to find a few customers and sell something,
Yeah.
right? If you're able to start with that, eventually it will grow over a period of time, and you will see the benefits of it, and you will realize how interesting it is to run your own business. Obviously challenging, but at the same point of time, very rewarding as well.
Yes, makes sense.
Yeah.
So actually, in this country, over thousands of years,
Right.
family businesses and families, for that matter, have worked like an institution,
Oh yeah,
to
that's
transmit knowledge to the next generation.
true. Right, yeah.
It might be craftsmanship or business or whatever it is. Family, when
Right.
there was scarcity of big universities, big colleges, and all
Hmm.
that, families did that job. So so right now in family business arena, do you think in a general scenario in India, so do you think that the skills are being transmitted in a right way? What can be done to make it better? Are parents encouraging people, their kids, to do higher education, go abroad, settle there, or they're teaching them the skills of running the business? So what do you think is the atmosphere right now?
Okay. See, I'll tell you. One thing that I've observed in many family businesses, and I've observed this very often now, and I don't know what's the reason behind this, but most of the family business third generation leaders, or maybe second generation leaders, either they don't study at all, right? They don't really have a lot of interest in education, right? Uh, and they just take the education for granted, and then they expect that I will simply finish my BCom or finish any kind of graduation and join my family business, and things will be smooth for my entire life. So the clear answer is that is not going to happen, right? For a very simple reason, that when your father started a business, or when your grandfather started a business, when was this? 1950s, 1970s, 1980s. The times were different, right? And education maybe was not that advanced. Today, education has been democratized. Why? Thanks to the online media that we have. You can probably go ahead and buy any course online. You can watch a lot of things on YouTube and get knowledge for yourself.
Right.
What has happened is that probably if you are a family business leader, say 20, 25 years of age, there is going to be another person, right, who probably is more educated, who has taken his education seriously, and now he is hungry to become a startup founder. And you won't know what will hit you, right? And that startup founder will probably surpass you. In such a situation, you will not be able to, manage your family business. That is point number one. Point number two is that even if your father or your grandfather has, giving you the initial introduction to the business, a lot of their experience is very helpful. I totally agree. But your own education will eventually help you with what the future challenges that they have not yet faced, right? So I mean, it's almost like expecting that whatever my father teaches me, whatever my grandfather teaches me, it's absolutely valuable. But have they seen what is going to happen 5 years now down the line, 10 years down the line? No, right? Even I have not seen that. But the best I can do is to keep on upgrading my skills, is to keep on learning, is to have my education robust, is to have my experiences robust, so that I can tackle those challenges head on, even after they have given me the education, right? Given me those, passed on those skills to me. But you know what happens? I think now, because of, I tell you, there is one thing which is very unique to family businesses. Family businesses, though they will pass on the skills to you and you will get some experiences, but there are some emotional issues in family businesses which are not there in startups, right? And I'll tell you how. Imagine that, you probably have a tussle with your father, or you have a tussle with your brother, right? Which is very common. It is very common in every family, right? It is not something to be looked down upon. A tussle is very common, right? Now imagine that when you go back to your office, or when you go back to the place of work, you see the same person that you fought with some time back, right? Now it's very difficult to do work with them, right? So my understanding is that only those family businesses which are emotionally well connected, emotionally happy with each other, when they respect each other, those family businesses make it very easy for themselves to probably grow in the large run. And you know what happens with those family businesses where the emotions are not right, where the fights are a lot, and where the bonds are weak? What happens is that even if these businesses pass on the skills to their kids, even if these family business leaders ensure that their kids get the best education, they will send them to US, they will send them to London, what will happen is they will take up jobs there and not come back. Right. The reason is because now that comfort is probably more attractive than what skills my father is teaching me. And that is happening because we are not emotionally connected to that business, and we are not emotionally connected to our parents, right? So if your bonds are weak, that education will eventually take the turn of a job, right? But if your family relations are very strong, you know what will happen, that education will eventually be reinvested back into the business. Right. So I think this is a trend that I'm seeing. So earlier it used to be true that you get your skills from your father, you get your skills from your grandfather, and you apply to the business. That worked for a very long time. But now I'm seeing that, as in when the education is probably going ahead, and if a family already has certain emotional issues, then I think that is where the break happens. That is where the third generation is not interested in the family business. They have probably moved somewhere and they are doing their own work. And that is where the family business will either fall down on its own, or they will be sold to liquidate. Right? And they will be forced to liquidate. I mean, they will not have a lot of options there. And I think this is a point which family businesses don't realize they are in. So they have to first They have to first realize that yes, we are in this problem. And I think this is something that I'm observing, which is happening with a lot of family businesses. I'm not generalizing, but this is happening with a lot of them.
A lot of kids we talk with, all between 18 to 24, all these students, they are from family business background, but somewhere, let's say 8 out of 10 students that we interview, they don't want to go back to their family business.
Actually, I mean, like I told you,
they want to either start something of their own, or they will go to MNC for a job, or most of them wants to start something of their own. So instead of going back to the family business. So my question is, right now, as you said, 70-80% of our economy is based on family businesses. So how to make the family businesses fancy again? How to make it's a aspiring career. So what do you think? How that works?
No, this is a really interesting question, and like you mentioned, I mean, we were having obviously a session yesterday, and I was talking to one of those participants, right? And I asked him, "You have such a fancy family business. You have such a great family business, but you are still not determined to go back. What is the reason? Why is it?" He said that I want to try out certain projects, right? But my father does not support me, right? He doesn't give me access to capital, and even if I put my ideas before him, he doesn't really take it seriously, right? Now, I know only this much, right? And I don't want to draw conclusions on it. I don't want to say that the son is right, or I don't want to say that the father is right, but I just want to make a general principle, right? What happens, especially in India, right? I have seen this in many cases, and I'm not generalizing, that, most of the times, parents expect that if we give you some directions, you should be able to follow it blindly. That is point number one, right? So in this case, I'm assuming that the father would have expected that if I've told you to do this business, simply just go ahead and follow my direction. Don't try to be creative. Don't try to apply your own mind, right? Now, the reason for that is that the previous generation was trained like that, right? Probably it's quite possible the grandfather would have done that with the father, and the father would have accepted it, right? But the times were different, right? Today the times are different. The third generation, this son would have probably looked at some things. He has certain ideas and he wants to try them out, right? Now, if I ask you whether it's right or wrong, we all might have different answers. My answer is that it's very important that you try your own thing out, right? And you let your kids try their own things out, right? And at the same point of time, you try to understand their mindset. Why? Because it's quite possible that they have some ideas which are actually very valuable. Now, the only way to test an idea, whether it's valuable or not, you have to execute it.
Right.
You have to try it out, right?
Right.
It's very similar to learning swimming. It's very similar to learning how to cycle, right? Until and unless you sit on a cycle, right? You put some pedals on, you go a little ahead, you fall a few times, right? You won't really know how cycling is, right? Now, here the father feels that he's probably going to burn my money, right? He's probably going to waste some money. He's probably going to try some projects which won't really work. I say that this should be totally fine, right? Now tell me one thing. If this kid would have asked you that I want to go to the US, right, and study probably and spend 1 crore on it, right, you would have been happy doing it.
Right.
You would have been really happy doing it, right? If you are able to spend so much on their education, right, why not invest something in their projects, right? And you can keep a cap on it, right? You can keep a cap on it. For example, I'm not going to give you more than 1 lakh rupees. I'm not going to give you more than 3 months, right? You can set a cap on the time limit. You can set a cap on the amount, but let them try their things out, right? So when you try to do your own projects, you learn a lot more than what somebody tries to, tell you, follow you, and you try to follow it blindly, right? So you learn from your own experiences, right? And there's this old saying, the doer alone learns. That the person who does it learns the most, learns the most. And I think that fathers in family business should be motivating their sons or daughters probably to do as many things as they can so that they learn from it, right? This is the most important thing that, and you would see that we do this at MIDAS. Right? This is absolutely what we do at MIDAS, that we really want you to come up with ideas, come up with projects, and we are there just to guide you. I might tell you the pros and cons of it, but eventually I will urge you to try it. You might fail, but you will learn a lot, and you can apply those learnings back into your family business, right? And when you encourage this more attitude, try things out, fail, it's totally fine. Have your own side project, work on it, but at the same point of time, respect your family business. This attitude of coexistence is the only way to make it fancy again. Otherwise, you will see that there will be a rift. The father will keep forcing, the son will keep hating, and then it's going nowhere. So I think it's better to let people try things out. Eventually, within a few years, they'll come back and they will find their way, and they will respect the family business because it is the family business which supported them in the beginning, right? So the circle will eventually complete.
Many people fail to raise funds because when they pitch in front of venture capitalists, it doesn't go through. So, so what do you think? Why do founders fail in the funding itself?
See, I'll tell you. First of all, I want to really clear it out that when you don't get funded, it doesn't mean that you have failed. That's the foundational principle, right? You did not get funded because for the investor's money, you are not the right option. It's as simple as that. It does not mean that you are wrong. It does not mean that you have failed. That is the foundation principle that every founder must believe in first. The second is that every fund has its own age and every fund has its own sector preference, right? For example, I mean, if you look at in India, there are SEBI regulations and there are funds which have a set defined life, right? So they have to generate returns within a period of say 5 years or 10 years, depending upon what the life of the fund is, and then they have to return that money back to the investors. So what a VC investor is looking at is that I want to generate these returns from your startup within a period of 5 to 10 years, right? So whether your idea is good or bad, he will first see that will this startup probably grow 5x, 10x in the next 5 years or in the next 10 years, right? This is how they think. And that is the reason you will see many venture capital investors not investing in manufacturing companies. Why will they not invest in manufacturing companies? Because manufacturing companies need a lot of capital, right? And they need some time to grow, right? Which the VC funds do not have. So if you're a startup, right, and if you feel that you want to raise funds from a VC investor, you really have to first find out which investor suits your business model, right? So you have to find investors who understand your industry and they are okay with giving you that time and money. Now let us say that you have already identified this, you have gone through this phase, and now you are pitching to an investor, right? There are a few things that we used to look at, right, when we are analyzing a business or when we are analyzing a startup. The very first thing is you as a founder, right? When we don't have a business, we look at the person who's going to execute it, right? So are you experienced in the industry that you are working in, right? The second is, are you probably well positioned to meet the right people in the industry, right? Do you have that kind of experience where if there are certain challenges in a startup, will you be able to, probably navigate through them? Do you have some kind of revenue coming in, right? Do you have a few lakhs of revenue? Are some customers buying some product, right? The other thing is, how well have you studied your customer? And I'll give you two good examples here. Yesterday, when we were having the one-on-one meetup, right? A young student came to me and he said that I want to build a social media platform where people are only, talking about, let us say, the current news, and the news will be customized for you, right? And you will get to know of all the hot topics that are focusing only on your interests, right? And I want to build on this app, right? Now I think he was 18 or 20 years old, and I gave him one simple question. I'm like, you tell me that there is InShots solving for the news, there is Twitter solving for the latest news media, there is Instagram solving for the social connection, right? How can you even think of creating an app, right, where you beat Instagram, Twitter, and InShots at their game, and then create a platform which is bigger than all of them? I'm like, do you have any coding experience? The answer is no. Have you talked to people, users of Instagram or Twitter or InShots, and understood what are the things that they don't like? The answer was no. Do you know how much money and how much time will it take for you to build an app and then get the users on it? The answer is no. If you haven't done this research, you don't know who your competitors are, you don't know how your users will behave, and you have jumped directly into building. Why do you think an investor is going to trust you with 1 crore rupees or 50 lakh rupees or even 5 lakh rupees for that matter?
And when the examples are here, the Hike, the company called Hike, it's a messaging app, got closed a couple of years ago saying WhatsApp is too big to compete with.
Exactly.
The Indian counterpart for Twitter, QApp, which is again a micro.
Exactly.
It was very well
It was
funded.
on Shark Tank, by the way. Right? And the founder is a good Twitter personality. He himself is on Twitter. He has like 1.5 million followers. He could not launch his own social media app, right? So what makes you think that it will be easier for you? I'm not saying, I'm not demotivating you, I'm not kind of criticizing you, I'm not pushing you down, but I'm trying to give you a reality check. That it's very important to talk to a few people and understand their problems. Nobody's looking for a new social media app, so why do you want to build it? Right? Now, on the other hand, I'll tell you that there was one startup that I was in touch with. Now, both these founders were brothers, right? And they were probably plain BCom guys. They did not have some great education that you would envy, right? But when they started taking care of the skin, they faced one simple problem, that I really want to try multiple products in small quantities before I buy something in the huge quantity, right? And there was nothing that was happening in that space. But there was one startup which was doing this in the US, and it was huge. It was one of the largest there. They copied and they kind of brought that idea to India. And you know what they did? They started setting up small vending machines where you would be able to probably get those small sizes of compacts, small size of skincare sunscreens. And a lot of girls, a lot of women in office, they really feel like putting some sunscreen and getting a touch up done, right? That was the kind of customer behavior that consumer behavior he was observing at that point of time. He started that business, right? He somehow pitched that idea. He talked to a lot of customers. He collated that research of talking to people. He brought it in front of an investor. Not only that, he promised that he's going to put his own capital to run some ads, and he was able to generate a turnover of about 4 to 5 lakhs a month, right? Then he went through certain challenges, and then he started setting up vending machines in offices that I'll give you small quantities of sunscreen, small quantities of lipstick, and people were buying those. So there was a problem that was waiting to be solved, that women were not comfortable maybe carrying, let's say, huge packs of their cosmetic things, and he solved it through a vending machine, right? And then they got funded, right? Now, no fancy pedigree, no fancy education, nobody's from IIT, IIMs, but you observe one problem, you devote time to it, you talk to consumers, and then you solve their problem, and they're ready to pay you for it. That is when the investors believe that, man, he's done it. I mean, irrespective of his education or his background, he has found the problem. He has invested time in researching for the problem, and now he has also executed some part of it. Now we trust you. And now, we are okay to probably put some 5 lakh rupees or 10 lakh rupees or maybe a crore into your business. But that is the first step, right? So this kind of primary research has been done. This kind of communication with the consumers has been done. And then when you go to an investor, he's going to give you a very good response because he has seen that you are genuine. You have a lot of hardworking attitude. Your integrity is in place. And once they do all the checks and the due diligence, they'll be happy to invest, right? So you need to have these kind of attributes in you. Right? I mean, when you ask somebody for their money, you need to justify why you're asking their money, and you need to be accountable for it. You need to show that you can trust me, and I will generate some returns for you, right? When this attitude of working on a business idea and then making somebody else trust you with their money, when these things come together, that is when you crack the code. Otherwise, it's very difficult, and that is probably the reason that 100 pitches come to an investor and one goes through. 99 get rejected.
Do investors bet on the person more than the idea, or is there
in the early stages? Yes.
Okay.
In the early stages, it is all about the person, because see, I'll tell you
Right.
that you and I can both come up with ideas.
Yes.
Right. And we can come up with the best ideas thanks to AI now. But ultimately, it's about the execution.
Right.
And who executes? I execute, and my team executes.
Yes.
So if I have the knowledge, I have the skills, I have the experience, I have my team, and I have shown some good track record, then the work is easier.
Yeah.
Then the job is done.
Yeah.
Right. So that is when I say that if you are very young, if you have no experience, and if you are out to build the next Google or next Instagram, then you will face a lot of rejection. Right. It's not that easy.
Yes.
So there are always going to be these simple indicators that people miss, and you have to put yourself in the investor's shoes.
Yes.
If somebody came and asked me 25 lakh rupees for this idea, will I give it? If the answer is no, then you don't really expect somebody else to give it to you. So I always say, I mean, the best thing that I tell to founders is that be your own customer first.
Right.
If I create something and if I don't use it, then I can't expect somebody else to use it.
Yes.
Very simple. Right. So that is one way to look at it, I would say.
Yeah. Makes sense. So actually, I mean, about this early stage founders, they sharing their ideas in, let's say, in a networking event or with the VC or with anybody for that matter. A lot of people fear that this idea could be used without notifying them, or kind of stealing the idea basically. But I have recently read with a very eminent startup coach in the Silicon Valley. He has written a book called Surviving a Startup. And there he writes, even if you have the best idea in the world, and you properly document it, and you present it on Tim Cook's table, Apple CEO's table, he doesn't have the time and patience to look at it.
Absolutely, that's true. that's the fact. So I think this happened with me as well. I think one of the speakers came on the podium and he said, "Don't share your vision with everybody, and don't try to disclose your ideas." And trust me, the scarcity is not in the ideas.
Yes.
It's not about the ideas. I mean, I'm telling you, you do some research and you feed it to AI. There will be tons of ideas for you. It's all about the execution.
Right.
For example, I mean, if that is the case, then maybe Elon Musk should not be so vocal about what he's doing. I mean, to take the most general example. It's very simple that I don't have the skills. I don't have his kind of attitude. I don't have his kind of hardworking nature, and I probably don't want to work on a space rocket first of all, right? So what seems exciting to you does not seem exciting to me. The skills that you have, not necessary that I have the same skills, right? And the interest that you have, not necessary that I have the same interest in that idea. Even if that matches, right? If you beat me at execution, you will anyway win. Right? And I'll tell you what, I mean, let us say that you get funded very secretively. You aapne deck chupa ke rakha. You go to an investor silently, and you get funded. Will then the news not be out in the media? Let's say the news is then out in the media, right? And there is some great developer, and there is some great businessman who reads that news, and now he probably wants to copy the same idea. So now he still has the chance to do it, right? You are just 2 months old. He probably has a lot of experience. So it's all crap. It's never going to affect your strategy. It's never going to affect your future. If you have an idea, talk to people about it. Simply talk to people about it. Nothing is going to change, and nothing is going to trouble you. And I'm very sure about it.
And many times, the initial idea is not the idea that actually works in the idea.
Exactly. You have
to pivot many times.
Absolutely. You keep evolving. You keep evolving all the time. I mean, I think the best example is Zomato. Started with food delivery, acquired Blinkit, and now it's doing something with events. It'll probably be doing something else 5 years down the line. And trust me, the next generation won't even remember maybe Zomato as like a food delivery app. Maybe we will be telling our kids that at one point of time Zomato used to be delivering food, but now it does something else. So it's a game of evolution.
Like Facebook was a networking platform for college students. Then now it's something else.
It's something else. Yeah, exactly.
So now there's an overlapping question between the traditional businesses and the fancy startup ecosystem.
Right.
Usually startups are perceived, when I say startup, it's usually I'm talking about funded, VC funded and all that startups. A startup is perceived cool at least by the young generation.
Yeah, that's true.
So now, but there is also an argument startups raise money, even initially, even if it's not, after
Correct.
that they raise money.
Yeah.
They fund themselves, they pay themselves, and they're not profitable for a few years now. Many
Yeah.
of them are not profitable.
Right.
On the other side, MSMEs are struggling. They are counting every paisa. But at the end of the day, they make profits. Otherwise, their families doesn't run. So, so a lot of people say MSMEs are the future, in the sense they are contributing to Indian economy more than the startups, because startups is funded, they're at loss. So, but has not the startups helped us? Now I can get a delivery in 5 minutes, 10 minutes. I can book a Ola or a Uber in 5 minutes, 10 minutes.
Right.
So have they helped public? They've helped a lot, but they're not profitable. On the other side, MSMEs have made profits. They are making profits. But how do you see this thin line, in the sense? What is your take on this argument?
Okay, great question. I'll tell you. I mean, how I look at it is there are multiple ways to look at it.
Yeah.
One way to look at it is that maybe you're looking at the picture only today.
Yes.
Okay. For example, there was a time during COVID, when Byju's was probably one of the most sought after startups.
Yes.
One of the most funded startups, one of the most highly valued startups.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
We don't see it today.
Yes.
We don't see Byju's today, right? It has probably crashed. At one point of time, Byju's acquired Akash. Akash was a legacy classroom business, brick and mortar business, nothing online, right? So when Byju's eventually realized that I need to get into the offline space, it acquired Akash, right? What happened to Byju's today? Even after the best acquisitions, right? Nothing really moved. I'll give you one more example. Talk about PharmEasy, right? PharmEasy acquired Dr. Velumani's startup, Thyrocare. Right. It was a listed company, got acquired by a startup. What happened to PharmEasy? PharmEasy is not doing well today. Right. So just because a startup employs people, just because a startup probably is solving for a lot of things today, right, does not necessarily mean that it is sustainable. Right. So there are stages in a business. Right. First you build, then you sell, right? Then you scale, and then you sustain. So startups build, they sell, right, and then they scale, but will they sustain? That is the final question, right? Now when you talk about MSMEs, right, MSMEs build, MSMEs will also sell, they also scale, maybe slowly as compared to a startup. But the best part is they will sustain, because they are not burning that money. Right. That is the second way to look at it, that eventually the last step of sustainability is on the MSME side, right? I'm not taking a bet on any startup, right? I mean, like you mentioned today about the quick commerce, right? I don't know if quick commerce will be relevant or not, right? It may be relevant, right? Today the Kirana stores are facing a lot of difficulty because of quick commerce. Right? So today it's relevant, right? But they are still not able to crack the code of profitability, right? So maybe if they do it, they will sustain, right? And I'm very happy if they sustain. I don't have a problem with it. But the point is, today the sustainability is a question. At least in my opinion, right?
Yes.
So the sustainability has to be tested very slowly, and then we see whether there is a consolidation, they get acquired, they work, they don't work, whether they become like Byju's or they don't become like Byju's. Only time will tell. I can't really take a call on it, right? Now when you talk about hiring, let us say a lot of people who are probably say not that skilled, the semi-skilled or the underskilled labor, they are being employed by quick commerce or food delivery apps, and they are solving for this kind of problem. Now I'll tell you something that I'll give you two scenarios, right? The first scenario is that you are somebody who can afford a delivery on Blinkit, and you can afford a delivery on Zepto, right? You can pay premium for it, right? A 50 rupees product, you will pay 75 rupees for it. Why? Because you have the money, and you will have somebody who is not so skilled come and deliver it to you.
Right.
That is one way of looking at it. And now I'll go back to the old fashioned way of doing it, right? I mean, there was DMart, right? I mean, you could go to a DMart. If you don't want to go to a DMart, you could probably order online, and the DMart would have given it back to you, right? But you're not wasting the energy and the time and the career of a person who is unskilled in making goods deliver for you. Now you tell me, you look at it from a country perspective. What is better for India? Should India's youth, I don't know how many people, be it 22 million rehne do, 2 lakh rehne do, ya kitna bhi rehne do, is India's youth going to probably grow, prosper? Is India going to grow and prosper if majority of the youth is probably focused on delivering goods to each other?
No.
Or are they going to focus when people take care of their own groceries, and this population which is now delivering goods focuses on education, focuses on upskilling?
But will they do?
Exactly. The reason they don't do is because these people are, because with the help of investors' money, they are going to probably getting 20 to 25,000 a month. They are making enough money for themselves, right? I'm really happy that you make 20, 25,000 a month. I'm really happy that your standard of living is increased. But the point is that there is lack of awareness that if there are some courses, if there is some upskilling that you can maybe take out, say 5,000 from in a month, maybe save a little money, right? Or maybe these startups start some initiative where they focus on their education of this underprivileged class,
right?
And then maybe they have some better way. Maybe they become developers, maybe they become financial consultants, maybe they take up a career, maybe they become video editors, maybe they become good at digital marketing. Right? There are multiple careers coming up today. I think these are the services which India can export, and these are the services which really add value, and these are the services which increase their standard of living. Right. But I don't think that that class is interested in upskilling themselves.
Right.
Why? Because they're happy with the kind of money that they're making. And the second is, even these startups don't really care. And trust me, if I upskill them, why will they work for me?
Yes,
right?
Makes sense.
So I think, it's good. I'm really happy that things get delivered on time. But I think I'd be really happier if I'm okay with going back to a DMart, I'm okay with going back to a Kirana store and getting my stuff. I call them, they give it to me. Right? And I'm okay with becoming a better planner. But I'll be really happy if these people have more access to education. They have the hunger to learn and probably become, a little more skilled. Sell those services where the lifestyle can improve. And they are not making the rest of the India spoil themselves and take care of the laziness and liberty.
So, final question for the day.
Right.
So, for a 20-year-old kid in a family business atmosphere,
right,
how should he shape his career in entrepreneurship?
I think if I had to answer that question, if I was in that place, I would first focus on probably getting the best education which focuses on entrepreneurship, right? So I might be doing some kind of graduation currently, but I would absolutely do some education where my entrepreneurship skills are honed, where I have access to the right mentors. And by mentors, I mean people who have actually worked with startups, people who have run their own companies, people who have run their own businesses. So I would want to be in that place. Once I have been there, I would obviously directly want to start either my own thing. I would want to do and learn, right? I would want to work on my idea and learn. Or if I already have a family business, I would want to go into my family business and take a small side project within the area of that family business and work on it. At least give it 6 months or a year, right? So along with my education, I am focusing on one project which I will dedicate 6 months to 1 year to it. And once I have that experience and those learnings, I will wait till I observe people, what problems they are facing, and how does it connect to my idea or how does it connect to my family business. And that is where I think I would take a new train and probably ensure that I solve those problems for the customers. And then it is either going to impact my own startup, I'm going to grow from there, or it's going to take my family business to the next level. Right? So I think education coupled with access to right mentors, then probably coupled with doing your own thing and learning from those experiences, and then eventually launching your own startup or joining your family business. That is the exact roadmap that I would take for myself.
Wonderful.
Yes. Right.
So that was very informative. Thank you so much for your time. It was such a pleasure to host you.
It was really interesting talking to you. Thank you so much for the interesting questions, and I think you got the best out of me.
Definitely.
So really